Welcome back to the stock portfolio update videos. Currently, my two stock portfolios sit at a combined value of over $120,000. That's made up of the just under $64,000 in my stake portfolio, and then my Vanguard portfolio, which is sitting at around $56,000. It's been a great recent times for me as the stock market's really rallied and a lot of my investments are big into the green. If we have a look at some of my holdings, we can highlight Microsoft as an example, which recently has had a great week, up 1.3%, and in the last month is up 6%. This stock is now trading over $500 a share and is one of the bigger individual stock holdings that I owned. Also, if you look at the S&P 500, which I have a big share of my portfolio's net worth in, you can look and see in the last month it's up nearly 4%, and in the last 6 months it's up 7.2%, which is great. Overall, my Vanguard portfolio has done quite well as well. I have nearly $500 in pending distributions or dividends, so these are dividends that I'm going to receive soon into my portfolio. And then I have around $720 in cash, which with that I'll be investing back into my portfolio so I can keep growing these values. Overall, it's been a nice mark for me to hit over $120,000 in my stock portfolios. At the start of the year, the stock portfolios were sitting at a combined value of around $100,000. So halfway into the year now, and it's now up around $20,000. That's even with all the fluctuations that we've seen across the market. If we have a back and have a look at VOO, which again tracks the S&P 500, you can see this downturn that we had here when we had Trump Liberation Day and all of that stuff. And then you can see things have really brought their way back up. And if you have a look at the last year, this kind of zooms it out a bit and you can see there was that correction, but things have moved all the way back up and they've normalized. It's almost back, it is back above where it used to be. And it's been great for my own holdings, and it's really built the lesson that through the highs and lows, just keep investing in quality companies that you believe in and you'll be able to reap the benefits. A perfect example of that is Amazon. Amazon stock is a stock that I really have been growing my position in, and I was buying shares whilst it was on its way up. As you can see here, it was trading at around $240 a share at one point, before having a real steep, sharp decline, especially with fears around the tariffs, how that would affect Amazon's global business. It dropped all the way into the $160 share mark, and it's really brought its way back up. If you've seen any of my older videos, I was heavily buying into Amazon. Unluckily, I did buy in around $213, and then I bought in a bit more in the 190s. So I missed out on here because I'd already used a lot of my cash. I did get to invest a bit more, but again, I'm still thinking long term, and I have an average share price of around $196 in Amazon, which did go up as I was buying more shares. And there was a point where I was actually negative on Amazon after I was buying in more. And now I'm up around 14.5%, so basically 15% on the stock, nearly $1,000 USD, and my total equity is around 7,500. This is a company that I believe is primed to invest in AI into their business and really integrate it into all aspects, whether that's their retail or their cloud. I think Amazon's a company that will really do well going forward, and that's one of the reasons why I've really doubled down and grown this position. If we have a look at all of my other holdings as well, everything stayed the same. I've tried to be quite consistent with my stock portfolio recently. Nothing else has really changed in here. And if we have a look at my Vanguard account, my two positions have stayed the same as well. That's VLC, which is Australia's large companies index, which does pay the majority of that dividend that I got recently. Even though it's such a smaller position compared to VGS, the dividend yield is quite large, which does make it quite competitive when it comes to my dividends. I do say that I'm not a dividend investor, and all dividends are reinvested back into my portfolio. That's one of the reasons I have also been cutting down on this position, VLC. If you have seen any of my older videos, it was sitting at around $16,000, and I sold it back to $10,000, and the rest of it's just been gains. That's brought up that remaining 700. But I've been moving my money mainly into VGS. So VGS is Vanguard's International Shares ETF, and this is my biggest holding across both the portfolios by far now. So it's sitting at around $44,000, and after I invest this money as well, I'll probably be hitting nearly $45,000 invested in just this single stock or ETF. So what it does is it covers around 1,500 stocks from across the world, excluding Australia. So it's mainly weighted towards the US. So majority think of your investments such as the Apple Nvidia, Microsoft, the big banks, JP Morgan. And in the last year, it's up around 18%, which is really, really good returns. It does its distributions quarterly, and it pays charges a pretty low management fee, which is something all investors should pay attention to, because that really can cut into your returns, especially over time. So yeah, like I said, it's invested in over 1,300 companies in all developed nations, with a heavy weighting towards the US, with many of those big companies that I hold in my stake portfolio. So it's been a pretty good holding for me. And like I said, if you look at the last 5 years, it's been a great holding for anyone who's been investing over this time. I can't actually invest in VOO in this portfolio. For some reason, I think it's because I am not living in America, but this is basically the next best thing I can get in this portfolio. And it does give me global diversification, which is quite good as well. So it's been quite a good holding for me. Like I said, in the last year, it's up around 18%, and I plan to keep holding it. I was heavily investing during this dip, so whilst I didn't invest as much into my stake portfolio, I was piling money into my Vanguard portfolio and really buying it in the 120s. Even when it broke 130, I was buying it as well, so it's done quite well for me recently, and that's my goal with investing. I don't think I'm some great investor who can time the market, but if I can continue to just dollar cost average in, and when there are attractive opportunities, when there is fear in the market, then I can capitalize by putting even more money in, and keeping a long-term time horizon. I've invested during periods like 2022, if we have a look at my portfolio when there was a real market downturn. All those videos are available on my channel, so again, I'm not lying, they're all there for people to view. During this time here in 2022, I was heavily investing, so I started my investing journey in around 2020, 2021, that kind of was my main first part, and you can see how things went up. And then in 2022, things really traded down, but I use this as a great opportunity to build my portfolio from the scratch and dollar cost average, put as much money as I could. And those videos are still available on my channel where my portfolios were down around 20%, but I kept buying in, I kept learning lessons. I learned a lot of lessons about what companies I should be investing in, what ones I shouldn't be. And that taught me a lot about, keeping a long-term horizon. And then after I got through that period, I was rewarded with 2023 and 2024 when the stock market did amazingly. And because I had built those share positions bigger and bigger and bigger, I got to reap the rewards in those future years. And lots of people did mention to me, what if something like that happens again in 2025, especially when we had that really big correction around the tariffs? I said, I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing these past few years, do what I did in 2022, and keep investing in companies that I believe in, especially if they're trading at a more attractive price, like what I was doing with Google. Going forward, I think I'm going to continue this portfolio, keep doing what I'm doing. I have around a 40-50 year time horizon with investing. I'm still quite young, so I don't think I'm going to be going anywhere soon, especially I'm not going to be selling any of these stocks. So my plan is to just keep holding in companies I believe in. And again, my portfolio, if you do have a look at them, they are very heavily weighted towards ETFs. Like, we'll have a look at my Excel spreadsheet next, and that will kind of show you a bit better of how I'm weighted. So if we look here, you can see my whole Australian portfolio is ETFs, obviously. And then 45% of my American portfolio is in an ETF in VOO. So majority of my wealth is in ETFs. I do pick individual stocks here because it's a bit of fun. Again, it's not a massive part of my portfolio. It's around 25%, I believe. So I get a bit of fun there. Hopefully I can generate some alpha and believe in companies I believe in. And it's good fun for me. It makes investing more enjoyable because at the end of the day, I quite find it as a passion. I quite enjoy investing. It's not just me putting numbers away. I personally have studied economics and finance. I work in financial services and pursuing my CFA charter at the moment as well. I quite enjoy the industry. So when I can pick these stocks and do a bit of research and have a bit of fun, I do that. And again, maybe I can generate some alpha. Maybe I'll lose some money, but I quite enjoy the process. And if we have a look at my two stock portfolios here, again, I haven't updated these to the most recent amounts because I only do it at the end of every month. So at the end of July, I'll go through and update these and then update these spreadsheets. But you can see even since the end of June, my state portfolio is up around $2,600, let's say. And then my Vanguard portfolio is up around $2,000. So it's been a great month for many investors. I did put a bit of money in, not that much because I have been paying for a trip that I'm doing currently. And then I'm also saving up for an investment property. So there's been a few things which have slowed down my investing amounts. But even with a slower investing amount, I have still been able to grow this portfolio $20,000 in the first half of this year. So if I can do that again for the second half, and I can hit $40,000 in total growth and get the portfolio to $140,000, that would be amazing. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. I think I'm kind of aiming for the 130s to 135s, especially because I'm really growing my savings at the moment. That's kind of a key thing for me. So if I can hit the 130s, 135s, I'll be quite happy. And it would have been a successful year for my portfolio. When we look at dividends, it's the same thing. I update at the end of every month. This month will be a good one for me, and my goal is to hit $2,000 in dividends this year, which I definitely think I'll be able to hit. So that will be another tick on the box, and I'll keep investing those dividends back into my portfolio. If any of you have seen like the compound interest, the snowball effect with dividends invested back into your portfolio, you know how important it is, especially if you don't need that money now. It can be just a lot more efficient to put that money back to work. Like me taking that $2,000 out now isn't going to change my life, but it can definitely help my portfolio's returns over time. Overall, whilst this isn't a dividend portfolio, my dividends have naturally grown as I've bought more and more shares, and lots of companies just traditionally grow their dividends every year. Think of Microsoft, even Apple and Google are now really doing dividends. Some of my others like Costco do a special dividend, and then obviously with the VOO and VGS. And when they track such a broad amount of companies, you will get dividends in that as well. So that's kind of how my dividends have been tracking so far. If we have a look back at my portfolios, yeah, it's nice to hit 120,000. The next goal is obviously 125,000. So then that's another quarter of $100,000, because everyone always says once you get your first 100,000, the second is a lot easier, and then the third's even easier. So I'm definitely noticing that. It took me a long time to save my first 20,000, build my first $20,000 stock portfolio. But now this other 20,000 has come so quickly. And that just goes to show you, if you keep doing the right things, you keep dollar cost averaging over time. Yes, there'll be tough periods. Again, this isn't financial advice, but there'll be tough periods. But if you keep a long-term outlook, and like myself, I'm quite young, I have a long investment horizon on me, I'll hopefully reap the rewards. And you can see this portfolio is up around 31%, and my Vanguard portfolio is in the green a lot as well. So that's the update for this week. I'll be back next week with more investments and where I decided to invest that $750. And that's all for now. Cheers.